Major Sanyang.
Major Sanyang.
Yes, if I can remember it well.
I see.
Yeah.
So Major Sanyang was in charge of Kanilai.
Yes, he's a major, and I believe he's Sanyang. He was in charge of the animals, let's say the livestock.
I see.
But I don't think he was the overall commander at that moment, because I remember we met there Wasa, who had nothing, as far as we were there, to do with the livestock. We were dealing with the major, but I know that he had a senior. So I could say maybe the commander responsible for the livestock or for the chattels.
And that was Mr. Sanyang.
Yes.
And Mr. Sanyang, or should I say rather Major Sanyang?
Major, yes.
Do you remember his first name?
No, I don't remember it right now.
What about in Farato? Can we establish who the contact person was, who was in charge of the cattle?
Yes, if I remember well, in Farato, also is it Major Korok, or there was a military guy. I kind of remember, maybe Major Korok, but there was. It's possible it's Major Korok, because the interaction was a bit brief. So, but there was a military guy, and then there were also herdsmen.
So, to the best of your knowledge, it is one Major Corps.
Yeah, I remember meeting Major Corps in one of the sites. So, it could be. But there was a military guy, and then there were some herdsmen.
Could we get a definite answer from you? Would that be a Major Corps for Farato, or you're not sure?
No, I'm not sure.
But what is clear from the record is that both in Kanilai and Farato, the exercise of tagging and valuation was successfully done.
Exactly.
The issue came with the exercise in Banjulinding.
Yes.
In Banjulinding, who was the officer or person in charge?
I don't remember, because we didn't take any formal documentation of any cattle there. So, as I said, by the time we arrived, the cattle, the sun was already hot and they had been released. So I don't remember meeting or discussing with any particular person. Maybe Ali Jallo may remember, because he's been dealing with all these people for a long, extended period of time. So he could remember.
Okay, to further our recap of yesterday's testimony, you had mentioned that at some point the exercise of tagging and valuation ceased. And this was also pursuant to a communication from the lead counsel that an application ought to have proceeded to the High Court. Is that correct?
Yeah, it stopped when I got a call from the lead counsel to say that we have to stand down all activities, because as stated in the order, the intervention of the High Court could be sought, and that at that moment she had spoken to the Attorney General, and they have come to the conclusion that they need to invoke that clause. That was on the phone.
In that discussion, did the chairperson of the commission come up with regards to that decision of ceasing to tag and value?
At that moment, I did not remember the lead counsel mentioning the chairperson. And like I said yesterday, it was just like New Year's Eve or 2 days before New Year. There was a holiday. There was nobody in the office, because I'm usually the first or the last person to leave the office. There was nobody there. And everybody had gone on holiday. So like I said, when the lead counsel told me on the phone, yes, we automatically stand down. I told everybody that everything is coming to a stop until, we hear from the authorities. So basically what happened was a series of emails I showed you yesterday came during that New Year's holiday. And eventually, at a day after New Year's, I think on the first working day after New Year's, after we went to office, because the office didn't open maybe a few days after New Year, then I saw the emails. I can't say the chairman, what I assume is that the other two councils were, the other two commissioners were in copy of the emails, which is Abiose and Sen. And I assume also, we had always had discussions, and Suhata, the chairperson, had always emphasized that the commission makes decisions on a democratic basis, meaning that at any point, if two of the three agree on any matter, that matter is decided in favor of the two. That's what I have always got from the chairperson. So the two commissioners were in copy of the emails. When we went back on break and I checked my emails, I saw the emails and I saw the order also from the High Court. And I also saw the instruction. And then I submitted the report that we had done, and take it up from
when you speak of the emails, you mean AMK 11?
Yes.
The emails that you submitted yesterday?
Yes.
From AMK 11, it's evident that the Attorney General was copied as part of those emails.
Yes.
He was a recipient of the messages.
Sure.
Was it a normal practice for the Commission to discuss its decisions or its next steps with the Attorney General?
No. I think, yes, 2 days ago, the chairperson told you that the Commission the Commission is completely independent. And to some extent, except when we come to other cases, I would agree with that assertion. I am equally surprised of the nature of the communication, because what I would have thought was the lead counsel would have, discussed with the chairperson or the other commissioners. And when they reach an agreement, just like even if it's a verbal application, because yesterday I mentioned here about applications before orders, then the commissioners would have agreed with her that the matter be forwarded to the High Court. And the communication that I would have preferred was, yes, I have spoken to the chairperson or the commissioners, and we have agreed to forward the matter to the High Court. But nevertheless, I still accepted when she said, I've discussed with the AG and we are forwarding the matter to the High Court.
Just before I move on from this point, your understanding of the organogram of the Commission, did it include the AG?
No. I understand that the commissioners according to the Act or whatever law, the commissioners are appointed by the President, and like the my understanding is that, as the chairperson stated here, that commissioners are independent and appointed by the President and should report to the President at the end of the process. The lead counsel, on the other hand, appointed by the Attorney General, but that does not, from my understanding of the discussions and what has happened does not mean that on matters relating to the commission, lead counsel reports to the AG. I think the lead counsel reports to the commission as far as matters relating to the commission are concerned.
Thank you. So, just to put it simply, the AG is not part of the organogram of the commission.
No, as far as I know.
And from the picture you painted yesterday, with words of course, you have the commissioners at the top, and then you have a dual arrow, where you have on the one side the legal and investigative team, and on the other side you have the secretariat. Is that right?
Yeah, because the chairperson had always told me that the commission is a group of, 5 people. The commissioners, the secretariat, and the council. That's what he refers to as the commission. So the secretariat, I report to the chairperson directly, and the council is also, I believe, an advisor and reports to the commission on matters relating to the commission.
Thank you. So, again, just to narrow it down, you do not report to lead counsel in any way?
No.
You do not take direction rather, from lead counsel?
Well, unless maybe when the chairman asks me or the commissioner asks me to do so.
Of course.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, we have established that the commissioners did not ask you to cease from tagging and valuation. We're not going into the propriety of it, just what happened. Is it the commissioners who asked you to stop, or was it lead counsel who asked you to stop? And was that ordinary in your normal course of things?
I think it's the lead counsel that asked me to cease, both on the phone and also on email subsequently. I don't see that as the normal channel of conveying a decision to me as the secretary. But under the circumstances, I accepted because I do not want to be the reason for any jeopardy that may eventually come.
And in fact, just to aid that line of thinking, when we look at the emails, AMK 11, it comes across as lead counsel advising to put sanity in the procedures of tagging and valuation as per the dictates of the court. Wasn't that so?
So again, can you reference the particular?
You have mentioned just right now that
Yeah.
you took the directive from lead counsel.
Yeah.
In very peculiar circumstances.
Yeah.
Because you believed that the circumstances were indeed strange. However, you did not want to be the reason for any anomaly.
Yeah.
And I am suggesting that the email conversation, in fact, would further explain that to say lead counsel was advising you to stop, or rather directing you to stop, to safeguard the sanity of the process or the transparency of the process, because the High Court had ordered for that exercise to be done by the sheriff and Gilmer.
No, I think the logical sequence of your statement is in question, because
enlighten us.
Yeah. It said because the High Court has authorized the sheriff, and the action of the lead counsel is not because the High Court has authorized the sheriff. In fact, it is the action of the lead counsel that led to the High Court authorizing the sheriff. I don't know if you get what I've said.
So basically what you're saying is that the commission made an order and that order was disregarded because the commission's order was for the High Court to validate its order as per your testimony yesterday.
No, this clause says the commission may sought leave of the High Court if it deems necessary.
Should we revisit the clause?
Yes.
We could, in the meantime, get the exhibits. In the meantime, Mr. Kurang.
Yes.
The cattle that wandered off from Banjulinding, did you ever get a chance to go back?
Well,
to Banjulinding to do the tagging?
I said here yesterday, that's when we received the instruction from the lead counsel to step down.
So then,
That very day.
so then in your view, sorry, from your perspective then, tagging and valuation was not done
In Banjulinding.
of cattle.
Yeah, it wasn't done by me and my team. I'm not sure if anybody else did it later.
But you can confirm that in Kanilai and in Barato it was done.
Yes, I can confirm that.
A complete tagging and valuation.
Yes.
Thank you. While we get the records for you, we will definitely revisit the interim order.
Sure.
We would also ask that perhaps not on the spot, but once you've retreated back, you can list down all the names of the persons you remember being involved in that process of tagging.
The persons or the persons that worked at the commission?
The persons in general, both that worked at the commission and from other institutions. You had made note of different institutions, but we would like to know the specific persons.
Okay.
Can we, in the meantime, go to page 8 of your additional statement, the statement you took with the investigation team of the committee, which will be AMK 1A.
Page 8. Yes. Page 8, I'm on page 8.
The portion that reads, or that's entitled luxury vehicles.
Yeah.
Please read that paragraph. If you can read it slowly so that the record can capture it and the committee can digest it.
Luxury vehicles. I had earlier written to the Ministry of Finance under the direction of the commissioners questioning why luxury vehicles were being listed for sale while the Commission's investigation was ongoing. I received no formal reply, despite reminders and a physical follow-up visit. I was told by a permanent secretary that the minister's actions were under the direction or advice of Mrs. Bensouda, which I viewed as a conflict of interest. I was present when the Commission visited the luxury vehicles at the State House. I did clearly remember a day when Mrs. Bensouda mentioned in the Commissioner's office that an Arab businessman was prepared to pay $1 million for a Jammeh Rolls Royce.
Thank you, Mr. Kurang. Would you, before I zero into my concerns, would you like to explain this paragraph and just shed light for the purposes of the committee?
Yeah, there was a time when the Commission came across an advertisement in the papers or in the media showing that some luxury vehicles belonging to the ex-president are available for sale. The Commission was surprised as by those vehicles that were considered to be under investigation were being put forward for sale by the Ministry of Finance. This was in the papers. So when the commissioners discussed it, they asked me or tasked me to write to the Ministry of Finance to find out why those luxury vehicles were still or were being put forward for sale.
Sorry, Mr. Kurang, we seem to be having technical difficulties today. We'll sort that out and resume.
Yes, so I said the Commission came across that order and then wanted to know why the ministry was trying to sell the vehicles. So the commissioners asked me to draft a letter to the ministry and ask for the reason. I mean, in that circumstance, they helped me draft the letter because for their own words, they always want to be sure, right, what should be in a letter. And we sent the letter to the ministry. I can't remember whether it was initially signed by, usually chairman can sign initial letters and I can sign follow-up letters. But I don't remember, but I took the letter to the ministry. I sent it to the ministry. And after a while, there was no reply. The commissioners asked me to write a follow-up letter directed to the Minister of Finance. I wrote a follow-up letter, and still there was no reply. So after a while again, the chairperson instructed me to go.
Just one moment, Mr. Kurang. Let's solve our technical difficulties. If the IT put up.
You need cables. Wireless. Okay. Yes, so the chairperson asked me to write the follow-up letter. I wrote the follow-up letter, and when there was no reply after a while, maybe a week or two, then the chairperson asked me to go to the ministry, personally to follow up the letters why there is no reply. So that's when I went to the ministry. When I went there, I wanted to see the minister, but they told me the minister had traveled out of town. So I met the permanent secretary. He was one Mr. Lamin Kamara, if I could remember. And I explained to him the purpose of my visit. And he admitted to seeing the letter at that moment. And I asked him, he's still waiting for a reply. And he said that it's only the minister that can respond to that letter, because the instructions about the sale at that time was coming from the minister. So I tried to engage him and ask him as to why the minister would instruct that, or why the ministry will instruct the sale. And he told me, as the permanent secretary, he never instructed anybody to sell any vehicle. And he used an expression in Mandinka, which is just like "brutalo mambukuto," to do that. I mean simply that I have not been bitten by a scorpion to sell an asset that is on my head. I have not been stung by a scorpion on my head to sell an asset that is being investigated by the commission. So I took his word.
Before we proceed, can you decode, the literal interpretation sometimes does not do justice to the phrase. Can you decode that phrase for us, your understanding?
Yeah, my understanding of that is when you are stung by a scorpion, you go temporarily mad, crazy. So you can do anything for that few seconds. So much particularly if you are stung on the head, you go crazy. So when people say, I have not been stung by a scorpion on my head, it means I have not gone insane. I am not mad, or I have not gone crazy. So that's what he's saying. He's not crazy to sell something that is under investigation. But he told me that at that moment, any advice that the minister was getting about whether to proceed with the sales of the luxury vehicles or not, the minister was getting the advice from the lead counsel of the commission. Yes. And he emphasized it by telling me, Amadou Ami, Bakilim Fakilim.
I see.
Yes.
So here we have another incident as per your testimony or your account of lead counsel speaking to members of the executive. Or rather, if I can put it on the flip side, here we have another instance where officials in the executive are interfering, if I may use the word loosely, with the operations of the commission. Is that your view?
Yes, that is.
And just to be clear, these assets, the vehicles, they were part of the subject matter of the commission, yes?
Yes, the commission visited the vehicles at the State House, watched them, and we took notes. So all vehicles that used to be owned by Jammeh were technically part of the commission's investigations.
And this investigation, of course, I do understand that you were the secretary and not part of the investigations team, but could you comment on whether this investigation, to a large extent, separated between assets that were state-owned and assets that were personal to the former president?
Yeah, I believe at some point they would have to do that, and they would have to be constantly watching out for that, because we know that not every vehicle that the ex-president used was eventually frozen or taken over by the commission. There were some that were still in use by the government at the time. So I believe the investigators and the council would make distinctions.
And of course, indeed, the government did own certain vehicles. I mean, Gambia was not a destitute state. We did own at least some vehicles. They didn't all belong to Jammeh, did they?
Sure.
And if at all they belonged to the Gambia, then the ministry would be in line in disposing them as they please, if at all they did.
If at all they did, yeah, same as the planes.
Do you agree?
I agree that, government departments may have powers to dispose, but I also know that the reason why the commission visited the State House to look at those vehicles and be informed about them has a reason.
And that is where I'm getting to.
Yes.
Did the commission, and especially you as the record of the commission, did you understand those vehicles to be as part of the scope of the commission, as part of the former president's assets, and not as part of the government's pool of vehicles?
I did not have access until now to ownership or title deeds of vehicles. Maybe the lead counsel or the commissioners could be able to answer that question.
But it would be fair to ask you that those vehicles were under investigation, at least, as part of your mandate.
Yes, that I know.
Those vehicles were under investigation.
Those vehicles were under investigation and they were visited and recorded by the commission.
Mr. Kura, I'm aware that you were eventually relieved of your duties just about a year from your appointment. To be precise, I believe the 10th day of July 2018. Between 15th day of July 2017 and the 10th day of July 2018, did you engage in the selling of any vehicles?
Yes, there was the tractors. As indicated in my statement.
Aside from the tractors, did you engage in the selling of any other vehicles?
None at all.
And before we go to the tractors, did you get interests for the purchase of any vehicles aside from the tractors before you left?
What kind of interest you mean?
Did the commission receive any requests from buyers of vehicles?
I know I said in my statement that the commission have received letters for expression of interest of people, for example, for the aeroplanes. What I understand with all vehicles is that eventually they would be disposed of, if they are to be disposed, by an auction, not by invitations to buy.
Yes, the question is precisely what occurred. If it did not occur, feel free.
No, I don't remember any.
Thank you. So just to be clear, the Arab businessman you allude to, who was prepared to put $1 million in our coffers, did not appear.
This was, like I indicated, this was a statement from the lead counsel. I did not say I met or heard from the businessman.
Understood.
Yes.
Did the person show interest?
I did not say I heard from the person. I say I heard from the lead counsel.
Yes. So did any Arab person offering $1 million appear afterwards?
I have never spoken to anybody about sale of any luxury vehicle.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the sale of the tractors, as you had mentioned, and in your statement you rightly mentioned that the tractors were procured from a certain project, an Indian project, and there were about 500 tractors procured. Could you guide the committee on the knowledge you have as to the extent of the tractors? And if you could be specific as to how you know what you know about the procurement of the tractors and how many tractors there were exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like I stated, the tractors actually was, from what I know, an agreement between the government of India and the Gambia government, whereby, as a result of testimonies before the commission, the testimonies that were made before the commission indicated that it was a total amount of $6 million, if I could remember. And this amount obviously was guaranteed by the government and to be paid later. I've also seen records of some government association, for example, the Social Security, making some payments. What I could remember is that there were about 500 tractors, from what I heard or what I could remember. They are divided into two different classes, the John Deere and the Mahindra tractors. And if I could remember, the tractors were brought, not assembled. They were assembled in the Gambia. There was a team that was working with the maintenance service department, the Kutu workshop from India, and then also people on the ground that assembled the tractors. I also remember that some of the tractors were sold to individuals by one of Jammeh affiliated companies, maybe Kanilai KGI. So,
was this before the establishment of the commission?
Yeah, this was before Jammeh left. Some of the tractors were sold to individuals or companies.
So
yeah.
Pardon me. Did you want to say something? Did I cut you off?
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Upon assuming office, how many tractors did you find on the ground?
I can't remember.
If you need your statement to aid any of your answers, please feel free to ask and we'll furnish you with it if you don't already have it.
My statement is right here, but I did not mention any number found on the ground in my statement. What I can say is that the vehicles control unit at the State House was in charge of identifying, locating, and then seizing the tractors and then parking them. Usually they were parked at different police stations around, around the country, because some of the tractors were seized around the country. The records were kept by the Vehicles Control Department, and these were supplied to the Commission through the Council.
Can you elaborate on that? What was supplied through, or when you say Council, you mean?
The lead council's office, because the lead council was directly dealing with the Vehicles Control Department to get information. I think first to give them instruction to impound the tractors. After they are impounded, to take the records of the tractors and then submit the records of the tractors to the Commission. Yes, I remember seeing records of tractors at the Commission, but I cannot remember the amount exactly.
It is true that the Commission eventually underwent a tour, so to speak, to identify the locations where tractors were parked.
Yes, the Commission did go on several site visits, and most of the places where the tractors are have been seen by the Commission, either the full Commission or some members of the Commission.
Do you recall the specific dates?
No.
The
site visits, no, I can't recall it offhand, but it was in the media. Every site visit of the Commission is documented in the media.
If I suggest a date, would it be able to jog your memory?
Well, if you suggest it, maybe.
The 23rd of July, 2018. Sorry, of June, 2018.
23rd of June. That would be one of the 23rd of June. That was just before I left, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the visit, yeah. I'll be part of that visit to locate the tractors, yes.
Do you recall how many days it was?
The number of days? Well, the tractors that I have visited were only in the West Coast region and the KMC region. The tractors that were parked outside KMC and West Coast region, I think obviously before I could visit them, I left the commission.
So how many tractors in total did you visit or did you record in the KMC region?
The KMC region, the tractors that I could remember, there was Kotu workshop, only Kotu workshop in KMC, and then there was Banjulunding, then there was Brikama, and then there was Briam, what's it called again? Sumita, Sibanor, Kanilai, Kalaji. These are the places with police stations. Yeah. So, yeah, I remember visiting all those sites. But the exact number should be on the records or in the file.
Which records are you referring to? The commission's records or your
Yes,
records?
the commission's records.
You do not recall how many you...
I will not be able to recall it offhand because, you know, we sold a total of 43 or so tractors, and it wasn't all the tractors that were sold because some the commission had decided to give them back to communities or some, yeah.
Can you put a number of the amount of tractors that were given back to communities? And please shed light on why they were given back to communities.
Yeah, when the tractors are impounded, obviously the tractors were, most of 90% of the tractors, I could say, maybe Jammeh had already allocated them, or the government of Jammeh had allocated them to either individuals or communities, or some people came and said that they have bought the tractors from KGI. They brought receipts, proof of purchase of what they bought it for, and when they bring it to the secretariat. When they bring it to the secretariat, I would make notes and send it to the council to advise the commission of whether there is sufficient evidence to release the tractor back to the rightful owner. That happened in a few cases, maybe less than 10 that I could remember, whose tractors were returned to because they paid for it to KGI. And then, as far as I know, in the West Coast, the tractors I visited, the ones to the community were not returned immediately, but yes, if the community's tractors, they were asked to make submission to the commission. That I could remember. The commissioners decided that we should tell the communities if they come, or the police or the vehicle controls units, when they communicate with the communities where they seize it from, and it was used as a community property, they should make a presentation to show proof that they have been using the tractor for community purposes and truly for community purposes. But the release of this to the communities did not happen while I was there. I did not witness it.
Let's focus on what you in fact witnessed or partook in. You partook in the sale of 43 tractors as per your account, and I had suggested that this occurred from the 23rd of June 2018. I suggest for the record But it was a 3-day exercise, and the exercise completed on the 26th of June 2018. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Good.
Where did you get such authority to conduct the viewing and the sales? Were you instructed by someone? And who is that person?
Yes, the commission issued an order to that effect for the tractors to be valued and put up for sale.
At this point, I would now refer to the interim order that we looked at yesterday with regards to the cattle. And perhaps I would ask you to read the last line of the order.
The last line says, all costs shall be defrayed from the proceeds of sale. Is that what you mean?
The interim order.
The interim order.
Secretariat.
Number 6? Or
Number 6.
number 6?
Yes.
The leave of the High Court shall be short in respect of this order if considered appropriate.
The leave of this order.
The leave of the High Court.
Sorry, the leave of the High Court.
Shall be sought in respect of this order if considered appropriate.
Okay. And who was to consider it appropriate?
I believe the signatory,
Who was the signatory?
the chairperson,
And who made the order?
the commission
Chairperson is a chairperson of?
representing the commission.
I will refer to you, Mr. Quran, and leave this line of questioning for someone else. Perhaps we can revisit it with yourself on a much later date.
Sure.
However, back to the interim order you just referred to
Yes.
for the sale of tractors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a copy of that interim order?
I don't have it with me here, but maybe if I search, I can find it. But it was just very similar to the livestock interim order, in the same manner.
And if in the same manner, it would ordinarily have a provision similar to.
I mean, I don't remember the exact wordings, but I just said they will have similarities.
Okay, but let's assume that the commission made an order. Once it made the order, it, again, just like that interim order, placed the responsibility in your capable hands. Isn't that so?
Yeah.
Who was responsible for valuing, attaching value to the tractors?
The tractor valuation was done by, if I could remember, one Mr. Njai, who was, if I remember well, he was a witness to the commission, and he was a witness in relation to the maintenance service department, which is commonly known as the Ko2 workshop. And if my memory serves me, he was one time the manager or managing director of the Ko2 workshop. And if I could remember, he was testifying in relation to the arrival and the assembling of the tractors. So he was the valuer.
When you say Mr. Njai, do you remember the first name?
I don't remember the first name.
Did Mr. Njai value the properties in his personal capacity or as the head of the MSA?
No, I think at the time of valuing the tractors or the vehicles, Mr. Njai was not the head of the maintenance service. I believe he was retired.
So just as a matter of fact and for the benefit of our records, Mr. Njai played a dual role in the mandate of the commission. Mr. Njai was a witness and Mr. Njai was also contracted.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the circumstances, as far as I can remember, would show.
Was there an engagement of other persons to ascertain competence as to who else could value these tractors? I guess what I'm asking is, what was the procurement process for appointing a valuer?
I don't remember any other person or anybody doing any due process on the competence of Mr. Njai. No.
And to the best of your memory, who suggested Mr. Njai be the valuer? Was it the commission, or did it come from yourself, or did it come from lead counsel?
I have never met Mr. Njai before that. By all reasonable assumptions, I would think it was from the lead counsel's office.
You say by all reasonable assumptions?
Yes, because if he was a witness, he's been invited by the lead counsel, been questioned by the investigators, they know his background, and possibly they know him before that, so they have first contact with him.
Thank you. I would like to take you back momentarily to the first meeting of the commission. You referred to a meeting where yourself and the commissioners sat. I would assume that in that meeting, such issues would be discussed, the issues of third-party appointments, contracting third parties. Was that the case?
Maybe if they are not discussed at that entry meeting, because they might not have been urgent at that moment since they were not. But along the way, yes, I believe there were discussions about contracting people. I remember there were discussions about Augustus Pump. There were discussions about the valuers, yes, the vehicle valuer and the other valuers. Yes, this naturally the commission would discuss them, and yes, I do remember discussions.
And as per your recollection, this occurred in the pendency of the commission after the first meeting.
Yeah, I believe these things occurred during the commission, not necessarily in the first meeting.
Mr. Kurang, the committee is wondering, given you are the secretary to the commission, an individual with extensive experience in the accounting field, to tally that with the commission's mandate, I mean, it would have been reasonable to expect that at some point, valuation of assets would have ensued, especially as an accountant. I believe it's fair to say so.
Sure, yes.
Did you ever envision your role as an advisor to the commission?
Yeah, the chairperson had always told me that I'm more like, apart from being a secretary, I'm also an advisor to them. Why? Because from my interaction with a different circle of people, I might have access to information or ideas that they don't have access to. So he sees me and treats me as an advisor.
I believe, to my mind as well, it is reasonable to expect that you would be an advisor. And having said that, did you ever advise for the process of procurement, especially on this issue of valuers, to ensure that there is sanity, transparency in the appointment of valuers of assets? Did you ever put it on record? Is there a plan from the commission as to how the commission will go about contacting persons to value these properties?
Well, maybe I don't remember my advice being sought and or giving any written specific advice, but yes, I would have contributed if they were on the agenda in any meeting. I don't set the agendas as such.
To borrow from your words yesterday, actually, we would come to that. You did not advise, and nobody discussed the issue of procurement. Is that correct?
When you say procurement, can you be specific?
When it came to, perhaps procurement is the wrong word, when it came to appointment of contractors, of third parties, was that discussed?
Yeah, I mean, the commissioners are very opinionated people, and the three of them are also very business-minded. So whenever there is an issue of that, they extensively discuss. I had the chairperson telling you about Augustus Plum and how the negotiation transpired, when they said they let him go, although I was not aware of that, when they let him go with 10%, I might have a different opinion, but they do discuss intensively about these matters, and when I'm present, I participate. But in terms of valuation, I think the council had more leverage about who does this, because information is power, and what is to be valued is always the council that is aware more than any one of them about what is at stake. I wouldn't say the council brought the valuer for the vehicles, but I think the council, among all of us, would have been the only one that had worked with or known the valuer, for the vehicles. Mr. Kuan,
yesterday in your testimony and in our conversation, I insisted on the issue of terms of reference and whether, as secretary, you understood your terms of reference, and as secretary that you also understood the terms of reference of the other individuals that you had interface with, i.e. the commissioners and lead counsel. And to the mind of the committee, it is important that the roles are designated in such a way that there are no blurred lines, such as to alienate who is responsible for what. And having said that, from your understanding of your TOR and the understanding of lead counsel's duties, is it in lead counsel's duty or responsibility to appoint valuers?
Valuers would have to be, or whatever decisions will have to be signed off by the commissioners. Obviously, the lead counsel would have been available to advise them, and like I said, if you have more premium knowledge about the situation or the individual, you would have a leverage in convincing them to accept. I don't see anywhere where it's mentioned specifically that the secretariat is responsible for that process, but you could see in the order where it says the secretary to the commission shall, in consultation with the council assisting the commission, take charge of and supervise the process. So, I mean, and within that, it is the council that has more information about the process than the secretary.
Thank you. You see, yesterday in your testimony, you mentioned that prior to the establishment of the commission, your conversation with the former Attorney General, or the Attorney General at the time, Mr. Abubakar M. Tambadu, in his discretion and in his choice of picking you to be the first secretary, or to be the secretary, he had remarked that he needed somebody who was not a direct victim to the former regime. In your view, Mr. Njai being a valuer, could you say that the commission appointed a valuer who was a direct victim? Because in your testimony, Mr. Njai headed an institution that was the custodian of these tractors in that regime.
Yeah, but what do you mean by direct victim?
I mean, I'm stealing the words from you. Perhaps I can give them back to you to tell us exactly what it means.
No, I thought you would say maybe Mr. Njai had been in prison or terminated or victimized in another way.
So
I'm not sure whether that's what you mean by direct.
Not quite. In your testimony, you mentioned that we are all victims. Yeah. Anybody that interacted with the former regime, especially the former president, we're all victims. And perhaps victim doesn't need to be in the strict sense of inflicting pain and harm. But what I'm more interested in is the issue of conflict of interest, and whether somebody that was the custodian of the assets that were the subject of the commission could still be a proper person to value those very assets.
Yeah, that's a point. I mean, that's a point of concern. You know, when you said it, obviously, the point of concern flashed through my mind. I mean, he's been there. He was the head of the institution. But that's one way, which is a very valid, logical way of analyzing it. Another way is maybe it is felt that he has specialized knowledge, you know, about the machines, and at that time, you know, that could be also another argument.
And this is perhaps where I can tap into your experience as an accountant. Valuation, when it comes to valuation, isn't it better or safer to explore independence?
Yes, there is more integrity to the valuation if there is no, like you said, no familiarity or no conflicts.
And I'm elated that you actually used the word integrity, since this was a commission set up under the whole scheme of the transitional justice process. And of course, I'm sure during your orientation, or any orientation you might have had with the government, it would have been communicated that transparency is an objective, that the people of the Gambia should know what and every step the commission took, at least reasonably.
Yes, I completely agree with you that that's the case, yes.
Okay, let's leave this point for now. We could visit it later. The tractors. You had mentioned several points. Can you please reiterate those points where you visited the tractors?
I did say that the tractors that I visited were in KMC was only Coach Workshop, and then in West Coast there was Banjulunding, there was Brikama, all the police stations along the Soma Basse, along the Brikama Basse Highway, Brikama Block, Sumita.
So they were in the custody of police stations, so
Yes.
different police stations.
Yes, they were parked in the police station because normally when we go there, the vehicle controls unit officers were also policemen, and they deposited, or they are the ones who parked it there. So they would normally go in the police station and do the necessary clearance and communication. So they were parked in the police station in the custody of the stations.
Back to Mr. Njai, and before we go to the yardstick of valuation, since you were present, can you guide the committee on what your naked eye representation of the value of the tractors were? Not quite the value, but what came to your mind when you first saw the tractors at these different points?
Yes, the unlike the how do I call it? Unlike the cattles in which I was present when the livestock department were valuing the cattles, I was present. In the case of the tractors, we took Mr. Njai there to show him the location. And my understanding was that he went back with his team or whatever, and then take their time and assess the vehicles independently. I wasn't present in that process. So they did that and submitted a report to the commission.
Were you privy to that report?
Yes, I've seen that report.
From your recollection of what was in that report, what was the yardstick used by Mr. Njai to value the tractor?
I don't remember the technical yardstick that he would say, but he was, I believe, conversant with the age of the tractors. He was conversant with the technical details of the tractors and the condition, since he had seen them at that point, the condition they were in. And I believe he used his technical engineering, whatever, to base on what he knows. I'm not sure if he's available to testify, but this is what I believe.
Can you take us through the values that Mr. Njai attached to these tractors?
Yes, I think
You want me to direct you to
sure.
look at AMK 8. That is your part of it.
Yes, I have the report with me.
Is that the report that Mr. Njai furnished the commission with?
No, I would say this is extracted from the report, because the report he submitted is more bulky. He will take the picture of each vehicle, take the chassis number, the details, the location of the vehicle where it was parked, and then he will put a value on it. So, or a reserve price on it. We only extracted the reserve price for those ones that we reported here. So this is just one component we pick from his report. This is not his report.
Okay. Can you, this is then the commission's extract of his report?
His report, yes.
Can you take us through, for the record, what is entailed in this extract?
In this extract, we have here about 43 to 44 items of tractors, and you know, they were parked in the Banjulunin police station, Brikama Police, Sibanor Police, Biam, Somita, Sukuta, Sibanor, Kanilai, and Kotu Workshop. So here, the reserve price, the reserve prices is what came from the valuer's report, only the reserve price.
Okay, so this, in fact, is a report from yourself?
Yes, I prepared this report.
Okay.
So what I extracted from the valuer's report is the reserve prices mentioned here.
Okay, so before we proceed to look at this report, could you guide the committee on the concept of a reserve price?
What I understood was that when the government is usually trying to sell assets, vehicles or whatever, they would, they would have to say, right, if it is going to be an auction, you have to say, what is the reserve price, which is more or less like the minimum price that the buyer or the seller is prepared to receive. So the auctioneer, who is the contractor, the auctioneer, the contractor, is giving notice of the reserve price. He would normally ask, what's the reserve price, before starting the auction process. And when the reserve price is given, then the auction process would take place. So it's usually a statement of the minimum price that reasonably could be derived from selling an asset.
And of course, Mr. Kwang, before we also go back and look at this report, the sales you had mentioned were initiated by an order of the commission. And now, although the committee doesn't have the benefit of that order, not from any of your submissions anyway, it is clear that the order for the sale of cattle had a rationale to it. The number of cattle were decreasing. Do you remember what the rationale for the sale of the tractors was at the time?
I think the rationale possibly the same. Maybe the council and the chairperson could be the best to give the legal rationale, but I believe it's similar to the case of the cattle, because some people may argue that the vehicle is more durable and therefore not subject to the concept of perishability as a chattel. Other people may argue that once you use a vehicle, particularly a tractor, and there is sand over it, or even whatever vehicle it is, so long as it's standing, it loses value. So I would say I didn't remember what is written in the application to pass this order, but that's my assumption.
Again, I keep insisting on the TOR and the mandate of the commission. It was the understanding, or your understanding of the commission's mandate, to investigate and report, or rather to make profit for the government?
To say that again?
Was your understanding of the commission's mandate to investigate and report back, or to make profit for the government?
My understanding is to investigate and also to borrow from one of the members of the special committee to bring value for money. Value for money. Not necessarily, value for money is not necessarily always profit, but it's an acceptable objective even for a public good.
Okay, we will come back to that. At this point, let's look at the report itself. You have confirmed that this is your report. We wish to look at the details of the report. Please be specific as to the dates and to the locations, to the prices, the reserve price and the sales price, and focus on the profit or loss as well, and who it was sold to. You have the floor.
So you want me to lead you through?
Precisely.
Yes. The sales, the 3-day sales, whatever, started in Banjulinding police station. The first day. And I can see here on the Banjulinding police station.
You need not go through it item by item. Just give us a rundown.
It's an auction. And what is required for an auction? Yesterday, I spent a lot of time saying that the best way you can get value for money from a sales process or an auction process, right? That's a public process, is to make sure that the system is transparent and due process is done. So there were announcements, radios, televisions to tell people, right? Or newspapers, radios, newspapers, to tell people about the auction. And those who are interested in the venue, that this date, it was in Banjulinding on the 23rd of June, and people gathered at the police station. There was an auctioneer who is on a contract for services rather than of services, in reference to our yesterday discussion with the honorable member. He was the auctioneer and he was leading the process. You know, when people gather at the time is given on the newspaper or the radio, and when that time reach, the auction starts, and once the bell is rung, the interested buyers started bidding. So that there were about 5 tractors that were sold in Banjulinding. Not everything there was sold, because I was told at that moment that some of the tractors were identified as community tractors, not individuals. So that's 5 tractors or so, yeah, I think it's 5 there on Banjulinding. And the same day, I think we proceeded to Brikama from Banjulinding, where there were 4 tractors. The same process happened there.
Is it the same day?
Sorry, this was on the 24th, yeah, the following day. On the 24th is when we did Brikama, Biam, Sibanor, and Somita. And then there was the 25th, which happened in Kanilai, I think. And then there was 26th, which happened at the Kotu workshop.
Okay.
All of them followed similar procedure: a public notice, time appointment, auctioneer present, announce the reserve price, bidding starts until the highest bidder, which is thought to be the highest bidder. The bell is rung a couple of times to see if there will be a counter bid, and then the highest bidder, right, takes the the item.
So as you were speaking, it's clear that the sales were conducted through auction.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Kurang, I will use my powers that I ordinarily get from the Special Select Committee to get free lessons from Jollof tutors. I know you had explained the reserve price and the process of auctioning yesterday, but before we go into the specifics, I would like you to lay it down again. Talk about the reserve price and talk about the rationale of the reserve price. Why is there a reserve price? And talk about what ensues normally in an auction once there is a reserve price. Those specifics.
Yeah, like I said, a reserve price is a guide for the sales process. So a reserve price usually decided by the valuer or set by the valuer to say that is the minimum that vehicle could be sold for. All right, assuming normal circumstances. And then, you know, the auctioneer, I mean, is an international process. I think the whole rationale behind an auction is fairness. Fairness and free flow of information, which I said is necessary to get best value from a sale. The auctioneer is all different from the valuer. The auctioneer would be given the reserve price. He comes with a bell, and when he rings the bell, buyers or interested buyers who have been publicly informed through the media and present would start making bids. Normally, we will tell these people, if you are considered to be the winner of the auction, you must pay instantly. The rules will be explained. The auctioneer will explain the rules to the interested buyers before the auctioning process starts. That if you are the last person to bid and your bid is considered to be a highest and a bell is rung and accepted, it means that you are legally obliged to pay the amount you bidded. So this is what we call the auction process, and this is the process we apply throughout. I think my role at that moment, one of my roles there would be the oversight, to see that the auctioneer does his job and does it in the best interest of the taxpayer.
So, just to be clear, you were not the auctioneer at the time?
No.
And you just mentioned that your role was to supervise.
One of my roles was to supervise.
What other roles did you play?
Yeah, I'm the person in charge of I'm the person who has been mandated by the commission to lead the process. So basically, if a government is selling a vehicle, the government is the owner of the vehicle, and the government have to make sure that whoever is it, the valuer or the auctioneer that is doing that process, does it according to the basic rules of auctioneering. So my job, I was representing the commission, which is representing the taxpayer, and my job there is also to represent the principal of the process.
So I would like you to describe it as animated as possible so that the committee can have a visual representation of what occurred. Now, the committee's idea of an auction is a gentleman usually. I don't think I've ever seen a lady auctioneer. But usually a gentleman or a lady with a hammer and gravel, if I could call it, screaming prices, and I believe those prices would be the reserve price. And the reserve price would then invite for several other prices from the gallery, and then it would go up and go up and go up. Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, I mean, the auctioneer, that's his business. So, like I said, instead of the gavel, there is the bell, which is more noisy because it's an outdoor activity rather than indoor sales. You could use a gavel for indoor, but this was a bell, like a school bell. You know, you could hear it from, you know, almost a mile away. So he will ring, and when he ring, he will say that this item, he will look at the reserve price, right, as a reserve price of 8,000. We are inviting bidders, right? You can start bidding, and then the bell will ring. Cling. Then he will keep ringing. If you say, okay, he starts at 8,000, that's the reserve price. Then you will say, one of the buyers, interested buyer will say, 9,000, I pay. Then he will ring again and say 9,000. Any other bid? Then somebody will say 9,005. Then he will announce 9,005. Ring the bell again for people to hear that the bidding is on. And then 9,005. Then somebody will say maybe 11,000. Another person will say 12,000. Then somebody who wants it more than the 12,000 and can afford it will say 15,000.
Okay, I believe that is enough in a minute.
That's how you reach 23,000.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So, in that ringing of the bell and screaming prices, where were you?
Standing and watching. Patiently.
And what was your role?
My role is to make sure that the auctioneer does what he promised and what he is contracted to do. That is to conduct the process on time, as per the public announcement, to conduct it in the open, to make sure everybody is there and all the buyers are there, and to make sure that he gives time to the buyers to keep increasing the price. So I watch and I keep hoping that the price would go up and up. And you know, when he reaches the final bell, I make sure, obviously, I watch him to make sure that before he rings the final bell, that there is nobody else in the crowd who wants to pay more than that. So, you know, he would sometimes ask me, can I drop the bell? Meaning, can I do the final bell? And then I can tell him, wait for a while. We need more money, right? Then he would keep ringing. And if he rang for a few times and still he may ask me, right, can I even close it? Usually I tell him close, and he closes.
We will blame the auctioneer for asking an accountant if he could close it early. You had mentioned that upon finality of between the auctioneer and the bids, upon the finality of bids, the successful bidders are required to make immediate payment. Isn't that so?
Yes.
How were those payments effected?
Yes, we generally requested, because of, you know, we didn't want to have any complication. We requested for cash there, because somebody can tell you, we heard about stories in auctioneers before this. Somebody can tell you, I will pay tomorrow, and you know, you may deny somebody with the cash, and when he goes tomorrow, he doesn't turn up. Then you have to go through a legal process in order to make him to buy, which may be costly. So another person can give you a check, and you know, it may bounce. So we insisted on cash payment to remove all that risk. But in a few cases, there were some companies that bought, and maybe some few cases we took checks, and none of the checks bounced.
You took checks because those companies ordinarily had goodwill.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be reasonable.
And who was responsible of collecting that cash?
Well, as you could see, I issued all the receipts. I took responsibility for every amount that was paid. Of course, I had a team with me that were collecting the money, you know, and counting it, because I had to concentrate on the process. But I make sure that whoever is receipted, I sign it and confirm it.
I'm sure your security were nearby as well.
Yeah, because I know what can happen, and you saw what happened when I left.
I cannot confirm that.
Okay.
So let's zero in on the auctioneer. Who was the auctioneer?
The auctioneer was one Mr. Karang Ablai. His surname, is it Jaite or is Karang Ablai? So at that point, I realized, or I came to know that he was a famous auctioneer, in the trade. So that was the first time I met him.
Could I suggest a name?
Yes.
Mr. Jammeh? Could that be it? His last name?
Karang Ablai Jammeh.
Could that be it?
Yeah, that could be it. That could be it.
And how was
I heard he's passed away.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was Mr. Jammeh contracted? How was he sourced?
Mr. Jammeh was given a contract for services, and he the price. I remember there was some push and pull about how much he should be paid, and I think the commission finally agreed, if I could remember, to pay him $500 per item. I think that's what I could remember. $500 for each vehicle sold. Something like that. Yeah.
So, do you know whether Mr. Jammeh was a licensed auctioneer? Was that confirmed by the commission?
As far as I could remember, I think he was. I don't. Yeah, the commissioners have discussed it. I believe they did. I remember them asking questions, and I think they were satisfied with him. But I don't remember physically whether I've seen the license or the certification of Mr. Jammeh.
Thank you. Now, to go back to AMK8, and before we look at it, just to rephrase what you had earlier mentioned, in the auction process, there is a base price you have referred to as the reserve price, and naturally, in that process, the price would go up and up and up until the accountant smiles. Can you read for us number 6 of AMK8? Each item, from the date to the profit.
Number 6, 24th of June, the buyer's name was O.C. Christ. It was a Mahindra. The valuer described it as scrap. Scrap there means it's not a functioning vehicle, maybe some parts of a tractor. And it was Sashi number PNBX 176K7, acted Brikama Police. There was a reserve price of 2,500 for the scrap, and we sold it for 15,000. There is a difference of 12,000 above the reserve price, 12,500.
So the reserve price was 2,500.
Yes.
And the auctioneer kept going until a payment of 15,000, or rather the last bid of 15,000 was agreed upon.
Yes.
And this is for something that was termed or valued as scrap.
Yes.
Did you do a verification of all the persons that were bidding for these assets?
What would you mean by verification?
Perhaps if I could ask whether the auction process was open invitation. Anybody could walk in.
Yes, it was, like I said, before the auction, there were public announcements in the newspaper and the radio, inviting anybody who is interested. First, you are invited to go and view before the auction day, so you could know, and they were already numbered by the valuer, so you could know which one you are interested in, and then you could maybe prepare your cash before that. So that was done with the announcement. And
so before we move on, on that first visit where you are showing them what is what, was there a log taken of whoever attended that first?
No, that first visit is open. If they could even go there by themselves without accompanied by me, they could go, and view it. So that was an open thing. You could go, and the police will allow you not to touch it, but to just look at it, as an interested buyer. So on the day of the auction, anybody...
Before we go to the day, the tractors you mentioned were located in police stations. Were they located besides the police station or inside or behind the compound of police stations? Can you describe that so that we get a clear picture of...
like this one that you are referring to, in the case of Banjul, you have to go inside the compound, right, behind the building of the station and inside the premises.
So you need to go through police.
Yeah, I mean, they are all, 90% of them are inside the police stations.
So which one fell in the 10%?
Maybe they don't have a space, for example, in the compound, so they packed it in front of the police station.
Okay, so let's deal with the 90%. When individuals showed interest in viewing, did the commission ask the police station to take a log of whoever was coming in, to keep track of whoever was coming in and out?
No, I don't remember that, and I know that the police would, because it's in their custody, they would have to make sure nothing happens to it. But, I believe also that since they know it's a sales that is coming, they would have ordinarily let anybody who is interested to view and only view.
Okay, let's proceed to the day of the auction. Once bids were made and they were successful bids, were the identities of the successful bidders ascertained?
Yes, because when you win it, you would like your name to be mentioned on the documentation or the receipt we are giving you. Otherwise, you not be able to prove further down the line that you are actually the guy. So when there is I wouldn't know the people who gathered there. It's a crowd, and there is no way to ascertain. But when we reach to the point where you are the successful bidder, we would ask you to give us your full name officially, that I will make sure of that myself, because I write the receipt. So I want to make sure that who are you that is buying this, you give me the name, and then you pay the money to the people holding the money, and then once you make the full payment, they tell me he has made the full payment, I give you the receipt of the amount you have paid in the name that you gave me, the person who paid the money gave me, or who won the bid.
So let's focus on the taking down of the name. You mentioned once there's a successful bid, let's imagine it was one Lamin Mdiba who had won the bid. He comes to you and says, "This is my name." Is that the procedure? Just gives you the name. Does he present any documentation to verify that name?
Yeah, I remember maybe some people bringing their ID. Here is my identification, and then I would put the name on the ID
And this was not a practice that was demanded by you, was it? It was optional for them to show their identity cards.
Yeah, but I under normal circumstances, trust that if you give me your money, you give me 200,000 and paid for an item, you would give me your correct name.
Was that the position? Was that your position and the position of the commission?
That was my position.
That it would be as easy as that?
As easy? What do you mean by as easy as that?
That because I am giving you such and such an amount, you are laying all your faith in me to give you my correct name.
No, I'm not laying all my faith on you. I mean, I am depending on the concept of reasonableness that I believe everybody on my list is a bona fide individual or organization.
And when they were organizations, you would write the organization's name?
Yes, like Civil Aviation, they bought a tractor for how much? 535,000. I wrote the name of Civil Aviation, but they were represented by an officer. But because they brought a Civil Aviation check, I think it was a check, I accepted it and I wrote the name of the institution.
Were there any private institutions, like companies?
Yes. There was, I can see here, there was Jin Kong Real Housing Estate that bought 2 tractors, one for $502,000, and the other one is
Let's not go into the details. I just wanted to know whether any companies came. And when the companies came, were they required to show any proof that they were indeed companies? Or did you also assume that since they were expending money, they would give you a valid name?
Yes, exactly. I assume that since they are spending so much money, they will give me a valid name. There is Jar Oil Company that bought the tractor, and who else is this?
That's fine.
Yeah.
The point is you did not verify whether Jar Oil was even indeed a company or it existed.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the owner, the proprietor himself was present. He gave me the check for 1.2 million. So
how did you know he was the proprietor?
Well, I was told. And I mean, that was my first time meeting him, but I had no doubt that he was the proprietor of the company. Gambia is a small country.
So is it because Gambia is a small country that we rely on third-party information to...
No, we don't. Most of these businessmen, we see them on TV, we see them on newspapers, we hear about them. So it's a small country, meaning that...
Fine, Mr. Puran.
You can't hide.
Let me ask, was there a policy around the auction from the commission?
All this process and guidelines I am giving you is accepted, is what the commissioners had spelled out in the order, that it must be an auction and it must be transparent. And obviously, if you tell me as a finance professional that this sales procedure must be transparent, then the systems I put in place must reflect that transparency.
Let's focus on that word, that concept of transparency. And I would like to ask, could members of the commission purchase any of these tractors?
Could they? If a member of the commission is interested and is prepared to join the same process as any other citizen, meaning as a member of the public, the same chances, come to the auction, play to the tune of the ringing bell, and eventually becomes the highest bidder in his personal capacity, I mean, legally, I would seek advice from you why that should not be.
It's funny, we were talking about TORs. My TOR is to advise the committee, so I'll reserve on that.
Okay.
However, I want to ask, could Alhaji Mamadi Kurang buy any of these tractors?
No, I will not buy the tractors.
But could you?
I think that would be a little bit strange if I am selling the tractor and I myself want to buy the tractor. I think there will be conflicts of interest, and I don't think reasonably you could assume that that would not be transparent, as I was describing transparency, because I would have had maybe inside knowledge. And the concept of inside knowledge, it means that I could have an advantage one way or the other, the ordinary buyer. So that definitely becomes non-transparent.
So borrowing that concept of inside knowledge, and of course, as a matter of fact, you are not selling these tractors as Alhaji Mamadi Kurang, but as the secretary to the commission.
Yes.
Borrowing that concept, the same could have been said for the chairperson, lead counsel, or any of the staff of the commission. So I pose the question again, could any staff of the commission buy a tractor?
Yeah, I repeat, for the secretary, I would never recommend as me as the buyer or the commissioners or anybody who could reasonably have inside knowledge, to buy the tractor. However, legally, if they participate and it is proven that they are not using any inside information, and they participate as part of the maybe, but for me, ethically, I would not recommend it.
Fine. The reason I ask is because how sure were you that perhaps an Alhaji Mamadi Kurang was not a shareholder in Jar Oil if you did not see the identification documents of Jar Oil? Well, how sure are you that Lamin M. Diba in fact bought a tractor for himself, and perhaps he did not buy it for the president of the Gambia, Mr. Adama Barrow, if you did not see his documentation?
Okay, that depends. Who are you posing that question to? To the secretary or to the layman?
I am posing it to you. Lead counsel, can I have your attention, please?
If you have a reasonable point where we can break, the committee will want to stand down for 10 minutes.
If it's pressing, I would yield, but I am at a critical point here, and I would like to proceed for the next 30 minutes uninterrupted. But if the committee, it is really pressing, then we can break at this very point so that I can pick up from this very point.
We can go for 30 minutes, so we'll stand down for 10 minutes.
As you please.
Thank you.